Bitcoin might be at $65,000, but that doesn't seem to be stopping multiple nation states from silently going all in on Bitcoin. We got a new clip this morning from a Wall Street insider confirming what we've all been wondering. Let's listen to the clip.
And let me ask a more direct question. Do we need Bitcoin? And I'm not a Bitcoin hater. I just want to be clear, but I'm being devil's advocate. Do we need Bitcoin if we have stable coins?
You might not, because you have, 10 different payments apps and ways to send dollars to your merchants and friends. But for the billion people living in countries that have, high levels of inflation, in low trust societies, lack of access to dollars, they need it. And for countries that have excess energy, they are finding it very convenient to pivot a portion of that energy towards mining Bitcoin, which gives them some sovereignty over their own printing press. And we now count 13 different countries that are mining Bitcoin at the central government level.
But is it profitable right now to mine Bitcoin?
Matthew, you used the term reflexivity earlier. It sounds to me like that could be a word that spins out of control. When you say reflexivity, you're talking about the idea that there's all of this leverage wrapped up in it, and you don't want to get next to until the leverage washes out.
Well,
Are we near a point of that, or is there still leverage to be unwound in this?
Yeah, I mean, look at Bitcoin futures. Open interest is down about the same amount as the price since October, so down 40%. If you look at leverage on Bitcoin versus leverage on any other asset class, it's very low. So yes, we've been growing because Wall Street and many institutions have been adopting this asset. There's structured products, there's increasing, open interest on the options on these ETFs. Right. So it would be normal for leverage to make all-time highs, in my opinion, as this asset gets adopted. It's the pace of the leverage increase that you need to watch. And when there's no bailout for the asset class, then you're going to go through volatility. But just to put that volatility in perspective, so we're down 50% from all-time highs, but volatility, realized volatility, is also down 50% since the 2022 correction. And in the 2022 correction, Bitcoin fell 80%. So you can argue that volatility adjusted, we've already had the Bitcoin bear market. A lot of folks are looking at that 4-year cycle, which would imply that this year is the down year. And I think you've got a lot of the old holders who've been selling into that cycle. But now's the time to take a better look. But, I mean, particularly in the equities, right? That's the space where we have really been focused here over the last year.
We're going to 35K. I don't know. Listen. Look. 4-year cycle's intact until it's not. But in all seriousness, like, if you take a look at what he's saying in terms of the energy aspect of things, I thought it was incredibly awesome how countries are able to really reclaim their sovereignty using Bitcoin and using Bitcoin mining, right? That's so freaking awesome. But in regards to him making the case that, look, like, essentially the worst is behind us, and this time is different. I've been making the case since October that I don't think that this time is different at all. I think that this time we're just seeing a repetition of the previous cycles. Now, I think the question in the next coming months is going to be, how low do we go? Is really going to be the question. Was 60K the bottom? I just don't see that. And you look at the 200 week, right? It's a 200 week moving average. Every single time Bitcoin enters a bear market, it always hits the 200 week moving average. And right now, the price of the 200 week moving average is 58K, right? So we did tap that a little bit. But from my perspective, the 4-year cycle is intact until it's not, but I do love a bit of hopium on CNBC. But I'm just going to continue to voice my opinion. But let me give you guys a silver lining. From an ROI perspective, historically, these times right now, this is when legends are formed. This is when you get like the best gains when the cycle starts to pick up itself, right? When the bear market happens and when people lose interest, and most importantly, when people lose confidence, right? And this is what we're seeing. People are losing confidence in the asset. They're seeing gold outperform Bitcoin the way it has. They're seeing silver outperform Bitcoin. They're seeing the stock market outperform Bitcoin. That all happened in 2025, right? Guess what happens? The tourists get washed out. They leave. They get bored. They're like, this digital gold narrative, it failed. Like Peter Schiff's having victory laps. He's calling for $10,000 Bitcoin. Ladies and gentlemen, we haven't had this level of sentiment since the 2022 bear market. It's been a long time. We were essentially in this, celebration mode for 3 years between 2022 and 2025. That's the reality of it. And these types of situations, like these types of market corrections, this is when everything gets flushed out, the tourists go away, you start receiving messages from your loved ones, and they start telling you, are you okay with your Bitcoin? Are you fine? Are you fine? Are you okay? It's like internally I'm not okay, but I'm on the outside I'm totally okay. But you get used to it after a couple cycles. But in all seriousness, you put all jokes aside, from an ROI perspective, this happens to be the most opportune moment right now, when no one else is paying attention, when people are calling the asset into question, when there's uncertainty, when there's doubt. And I'm sure if you guys have been riding the Bitcoin roller coaster and you guys are tuning into Simply Bitcoin, you guys are feeling some type of these emotions. Right now is the best time to dollar cost average. Right now is the best time to get into Bitcoin from a historical perspective before eventually, inevitably, the bull market starts to pick up again. Now, the only question, and perhaps Opti, you disagree with me on this, I'm going to take a little bit of a contrarian take. I hope the crash happens soon. Like, I hope it.
No, I literally said that yesterday.
I hope it continues to crash. Like, I don't want a relief rally for it to go back to 80, 90K, and then for that to be a dead cat bounce, and then it prolongs the situation. I would rather want a very fast capitulation, so that we can start, the party again, right? So is that going to happen in May? Is that going to happen later on in the year? But again, this is when you guys will remember, if this is your first cycle, this is where you're paying your dues. This is when you're earning your stripes. This is where you're paying your costs of tuition. And again, if you've been in the space for a long time, you guys all know that the year, after the euphoric year, which we never had, tends to be the most opportune moment for Bitcoin. So, Opti, I know you played that clip. I know that you want to let's comment on that clip, but dude, I disagree with him. That's my advice. I'm going to keep telling you guys the truth on my side. So
the truth,
my truth, my perspective.
Damn, my truth. Wow, bro.
My perspective.
You've really gone to the dark side. My truth. Love it. anyways, I do want to kind of unpack a few of the things that Matthew Siegel said from VanEck. If you don't know what VanEck is, it's one of the bigger Bitcoin Wall Street adjacent firms. They, I think, have a pretty good insight into what's going on behind the scenes. The first portion, though, I'm personally, the whole stablecoin question, he's right. I just think that question could have been answered a little better when he was like, do we even need Bitcoin? And he did the whole payments thing. From our perspective, and I think in the last couple of years, it's very clear. For me personally, the best response to that is we have nothing to store our purchasing power. You could use gold. It's a digital world. Obviously the purchasing power idea doesn't really hit with most people. And that was a good kind of softball to make us Bitcoiners feel, or rather seem, a little more altruistic than maybe we actually are. And so I'll let that one slide. Now, the kind of big, he kind of did skirt it under the rug there, that we know of 13 countries that are actively mining Bitcoin from a central, government level. I did try to search what those countries were. There was no official post from VanEck yet. Maybe we'll get that information later. I didn't have necessarily enough time to break down all of the VanEck reports, but I did see a Grok post here And the Grok posts, you know, someone asked Grok which countries, and it goes Vanex, Matthew Siegel. Hold on. Here we go. Let me adjust this a little bit. It goes, Vanex Matthew Siegel mentioned 13 governments mining Bitcoin, but didn't specify the list publicly, which is what I said. And based on recent reports, likely include Bhutan, which we did hear they did sell a little bit of their Bitcoin. El Salvador, of course, there is some Bitcoin mining. Iran, Russia, UAE, Ethiopia, Argentina, Oman, Venezuela, Kazakhstan, the US via partnerships, France, and Japan. Now, I know a lot of those countries have a lot of private miners, but I haven't heard about them coming from a government level. So until we get real confirmation about who these governments are, this is kind of a trust us bro moment. Yes, we've seen a lot of reports. Yes, some of those names that Grok responded, we can kind of be like, yeah, we know that was probably the case. But it is very interesting. And the real question here that I've been asking, I've been talking about on the show, is this idea of, ever since Trump came out and talked about the U.S. becoming the Bitcoin superpower of the world, are other countries actively taking this Bitcoin idea seriously? Obviously, we've seen some kind of murmurs about it. We've seen some tentative, maybe bending of the knee. We haven't really seen like official, proud, big splash announcements around it. But I think it's very safe to say, and we have been speculating on the show, you guys in the chat, us here on this side of the camera, basically saying like other countries are taking this Bitcoin thing seriously. And so I think this is part of the narrative of, you can't stop Bitcoin at this point. You have to start taking Bitcoin seriously. And if what we're seeing from Wall Street is any indication of what the average person is thinking around Bitcoin, now I wasn't going to bring this up on the show, but there was a report coming out from BlackRock's, one of BlackRock's analysts, and he's basically saying, like, if you just add 1% of your portfolio from Asian markets, that's going to be like $2 trillion of inflow. We've seen this conversation happen where asset managers are starting to, you know, give a very small percentage of portfolios allocation into Bitcoin. So the idea is there. People are taking Bitcoin seriously. Obviously, they're not taking it as seriously as we are. As Jack Mallers kind of exposed, they're kind of just looking at Bitcoin as this software project. Like, it's just a software. They haven't gotten to, oh, this is a monetary revolution yet, which is like the big step, the big idea that, you know, we always talk about.
You know what has me extremely excited is the fact that all these countries right now, they're essentially going through what all of us have gone through.
Yeah, exactly.
In the early, you know, when you first get into Bitcoin, right? Like you it's like a story that I hear over and over and over again. You get pie on your face. First time you get into Bitcoin, it humbles the hell out of you. You know, you have to go through this crazy volatility, and then only then do you come out on the other side and you come out looking like a genius. Now, what makes me really excited about this cycle in particular is MicroStrategy and El Salvador really proved the nation state and public company model this cycle, right? The cycle that just finished. This next upcoming cycle, a lot of these nation states that have been quietly mining Bitcoin, and a lot of these companies that did have the cojones to buy Bitcoin and put Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they're going to be vindicated. They're going to look They're going to look really, really, really good. And the free markets do what the free markets do. And a lot of other companies and countries are going to look, you know, they're going to look behind them. They're going to be like, wait a second, like that actually wasn't that bad of an idea. That's actually a pretty good idea. Right. So that's what has me really excited about the upcoming cycle, like the cycle that we're currently in right now, and the early innings of it is, again, you're going to have this nation. I'm calling it right now. This is a prediction, not a price prediction or whatever, but this is a prediction. I'm calling it right now. I think this cycle is when you're going to see the true nation state FOMO. It wasn't this cycle. We were a cycle early, right? This cycle is when you're going to see.
We're always early.
This cycle is when you're going to see the nation state FOMO. This cycle is when you're going to see the public company FOMO. This cycle is when you're going to see that, because the countries that did have the cojones, the countries that did have the balls to follow in the footsteps of Saylor and El Salvador, those countries and those companies, they're going to be vindicated. Like everybody else, again, that when you get into Bitcoin, you pay your price of tuition, you get vindicated, and guess what? When the next cycle hits and you hit all-time highs, you end up looking like a genius, right? And then of course that creates a cascading effect, that creates a domino effect. Other countries, other companies want to follow in the footsteps of those countries and those companies that benefited from, adopting a Bitcoin standard. So that's what has me incredibly excited. And again, I love the fact that legacy media, as much as we're I'm not going to say my opinion there, but what I will say is I love the fact that legacy media,
our jobs is to say our opinion.
I love the fact that legacy media continues to. The reason that I didn't dunk on it, Opti, is because the financial media actually is our friend now. Like,
are they?
Yeah, Squawk.
Dude, Joe Kernan is the only one that's actually, and Charles Payne.
But Charles Payne.
Yeah, Charles Payne and Joe Kernan. But that's like 1-2 people out of the whole station.
Yeah, but dude, like at least like we've come a long way, bro. Before it was
we got 2 people. We come a long way.
We've come a long way, bro. Before it was like like Bitcoin was like it came from hell or something. Like it was satanic. It was possessed.
Dude, I wouldn't be saying that right now.
They came out with
I wouldn't be saying that right now.
They came out with the crosses and they're like, no, we can't touch this thing. This thing's for money launderers and all that stuff. Like now, like you have Joe Kernan and you have Charles Payne. They're like, no, wait a second. No, this Bitcoin thing is awesome. This thing is good. Right. So I love the fact that legacy media continues to talk about this and they feel like it's a notable subject. I
think you made a good point there.
I think no news is bad news. Like I think when they don't bring anyone representing the industry on TV, that's going to be the bottom of the bear market, right? That's going to be like Bitcoin's done. It's over.
That's when it's going to zero. Honestly, I do kind of take the same thing. No news is bad news. You know how hard it is to do our job when there is no news? This shit's rough. Okay. All right. No, you did say something that I was saying yesterday. And I again, forgive me, guys. I know you like me hanging out in the chat. I'm not able to do that when I'm producing the show alone. But I did bring up that Pierre Rochard video, that clip where he was saying, look, for better or worse, number go up is what drives the adoption of Bitcoin. And I think you made a good point there where you're like, once number goes back up is when you're really going to start to see all of the crazy FOMO, and they're probably going to FOMO at the top. But once these countries, corporations, asset managers actually get a good run here and they get some really good gains, like this could switch on a dime, basically. Now, the other thing I do want to talk, we still got, a little bit of banter left, is I want to touch on the last part that Matthew Siegel said from Van Eck on if it depends on what you're looking at, or rather it depends on your perspective here. We could say we've already been in a bear market for 4 months. Now, I was going to bring this up yesterday, but I just completely forgot because, doing the show and things go and my 2 neurons are firing and I don't have the best RAM here, so I just kind of go with the flow. Anyways, I was having this idea and you guys respond in the chat and I'll as we keep the show going, I'll kind of take input back from you. But I was talking to Luke yesterday, and it depends what you are pricing Bitcoin in, that you can try to understand where we are, if we've been in a bear market for 4 months or have we been in a bear market for 14 months. And by that, I mean, if we're pricing Bitcoin in dollars, then the bear market's been 4 months. But if we're pricing Bitcoin in gold, then we've been in a bear market for 14 months. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because as we've seen towards the end of last year, central banks, we could almost say we're on a pseudo gold standard right now. The central banks, the reserves from central banks around the world have never been as high as they are in gold. And so or gold compared to treasuries or dollars. And so my thinking is like, what are we pricing this bear market in? Because if the central banks are hoarding gold right now, and gold's of course had an incredible run, you could almost say, since we've seen the central bank's reserves go higher in gold than they are in treasuries right now, it's like, did we kind of psychologically switch back to a gold standard where gold is the money now and no one wants to price anything in dollars? And so that makes me wonder, it's like, are we in a bear market because the dollar price, or have we been in a bear market for a lot longer because of the gold price? And if that's the psychology here, it's like, what is the real money now? Like, what do we price things in when, you know, central banks are holding more gold than dollars? Even they don't want to price things in dollars. So I'm like, have we been in a bear market for 4 months, or has it been 14 months? It just depends on what the real money is, but we really have no clue yet. Like, we can make guesses. Obviously, everyone traditionally looks at the dollar price of Bitcoin to look at the bear markets. But if we are kind of on this pseudo gold standard now, then the real money, the real, you know, metric for value now is gold. And we could arguably say we've been in a bear market for a lot longer, and maybe we're not going to be in a bear market for that long.
You know, it reminds me like what you're talking about in regards to the gold aspect. And Jack Mahler's actually posted a really interesting chart. But basically, we're going to be talking about this during the numbers, the Bondi situation.
Oh, yeah, you did. I almost did the show on that today.
But like, essentially, like, the reality is, like, you keep hearing like a lot of the narrative coming, basically like, look, the stock market is hitting all-time highs if you price it in fiat. But if you price the stock market in gold, it's not hitting all-time highs at all. So like, there's like a distortion of reality that's happening right now, right? It's distorted. There's a cognitive dissonance that's being created because it's like, oh, the stock market is making all-time highs. It's like, oh, that $100 in your bank account is that $100 in your bank account. But no one's asking the real question. The real question is, what is the purchasing power of that dollar, right? And gold is really the only indicator, because again, it has that historical track record. It's been around for so long that actually shows the real price of things, right? I don't think you can really look like, if the stock market is not making all-time highs in gold, then is it really making all-time highs? Is the stock, if Bitcoin is not making all-time highs in gold, then is it really making all-time highs? And my answer to that would be no. And a really kind of interesting bit, I told you guys my thesis of the previous cycle, that the euphoric phase was December of 2024, January of 2025, even though we made the USD top in October of 2025. You know when we made the all-time high versus gold? December of 2024, beginning of January 2025. That was
okay. Nico vindicated again.
That was the true euphoric top of last cycle. The reason we were blind to it, the reason we didn't see it, was because we didn't have the normal euphoric blow off top. And that's why people were blind to what was really happening. But if you think about the emotions that that we were going through in that time, I remember I was like literally posting pictures of me dancing in front of the TV because Bitcoin hit $100,000. Michael Saylor, like, he had this crazy 100K party. We were celebrating. Opti and I we were throwing live streams. We had the channel was much smaller back then. We had over 1,000 people watching us live just on YouTube alone. We were celebrating. I remember we had the Trump inauguration live stream. Like, it was a whole shebang. Like, it was a whole thing. Like, all of these things happened, right? And no one saw it. That was the euphoric top.
Well, did we finally agree on something?
What?
You've been saying for a while, the like November, December of 2024, when Trump got elected, is when there was the bull market or the bull euphoric top. But we completely missed it because we were pricing Bitcoin in dollars. But when you price it in gold, it's very clear, which does make me think that psychologically the markets are pricing everything in gold. We're going back to this hard money standard. And that's what makes me think that maybe the bear market, like maybe we've already seen it. And again, we're just being kind of blindsided, or rather blind, mind blind to what is the actual pricing mechanism. Like, I know we're all used to pricing things in dollars or your local fiat currencies, but when you're pricing things in gold, as we've seen with the gold run and kind of the move back to hard monies and central banks acquiring and hoarding gold and other precious metals at a rate we haven't seen in a long time, it does feel like it's a pseudo gold standard. And if we were pricing everything in gold, then we would have totally seen it.
Yeah, exactly. We were just using the wrong unit of account, right? And I think that's why we didn't see it, because the reality is, again, there was a clear top. It just wasn't a parabolic top. It was a top based on apathy, which kind of made us blind to it. But that's what happens every cycle, right? Like every cycle, something different happens, because the consensus can't be right. Like that's the whole basis of markets, right? If the consensus is thinking that, hey, listen, we're gonna have this amazing. I remember, Opti, you were there, bro. I remember telling you this in January of 2025. I'm like, dude, you know what worries me for this cycle? It's the fact that everyone thinks that we're going to have this crazy year. Remember, I was telling you that in January? I was like, dude, like what worries me about this cycle is like everyone, it thinks that this is a sure bet. We're going to win 100%. And that's not the way that markets work. Right, like it was priced in. And someone in the Rumble chat, I'm not going to read the comment before that, but I'm going to read the second comment. Jefferson said it best: the stock market is propped up by 7 corporations. That's so true. If you take out the Mag 7 out of that, the stock market isn't doing all that great, right? So yeah, man,
it's literally negative.
It's not doing all that great, right? So yeah, like it's interesting, and this leads me to the final conclusion of all of this before we move on to the next segment, which is I think they're going to have no option but to what, Opti? What are they going to eventually have to do?
They're going to have to run it hot. They're going to have to print.
They're going to have the Larry Lepard's book comes into play, the big print. That's when it's coming, because I think we always make a joke that the Bitcoin Ponzi's over. I think the Wall Street Ponzi is what's really coming. I don't
think so.
What do you mean?
I think the fiat Ponzi's got a lot more steam left in it,
bro. I mean, look, if the Mag 7, right, are the only things keeping the stock market afloat. Right?
Yeah, but you're saying the Mag 7 is going to crash. Like, I don't think that's.
I don't think that's going to happen, man. But like, if the stock market,
like,
look,
to be completely on your side on this one, I would venture to argue that the fiat Ponzi is already over, and just most people aren't aware of it, and that's why it's like it feels like a zombie economy, and things are just kind of chugging along. But it's like, from our opinion, like it's already cooked.
Yeah, it could be. Anyways, all right, guys, it's going to be a great show. We got a ton of content for you guys. I think we have a guest coming in later. I just checked the calendar.
Do we?
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Rip Opti not looking at the calendar.
Yeah, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about this today, but Elon announced yesterday about X money. In my mind, I was thinking for so long, I was like, why hasn't Elon talked about Bitcoin? SpaceX owns a lot of Bitcoin. Tesla owns a bit of Bitcoin. One of the big tech companies, by the way, that has a big portion of Bitcoin is Tesla. And I haven't seen Elon talked about. The last time Elon talked about it was like, hey, Tesla accepts Bitcoin. And then he kind of reneged on that. Like he walked it back and he said, you know what, we'll accept it again if like we see that the majority of Bitcoin mining is done via renewables. He never brought back Bitcoin to the Tesla website. Now, what's really interesting, though, is that he made an announcement yesterday talking about X money. So he wants to bring payments to the X platform, which he sees as the everything app, right? And I gotta say, you know, I'm new to Bitcoin, I'm here to fix it, or I think I could do Bitcoin better, right? And we know from when Facebook tried to do this, what the outcome is going to be. The reason he wasn't able to do this with PayPal, the reason Facebook wasn't able to do this with what was the name of their coin? Libra. The reason they weren't able to do that is because of the centralization of it. As long as the products that they're releasing are centralized, the first thing governments are going to do is attack the entity. It's not going to work unless it's purely decentralized. This is why Bitcoiners keep harping on this. This is why David Marcus, he went from PayPal, he went to Meta, he did the whole Libra thing, and he ended up in Lightning. And why did he end up building a whole company? What's the name of his company? Is Lightspark, right?
Lightspark.
Lightspark.
Yeah.
He ended up building this entire company because he realized, oh my God, like if I don't build on Bitcoin, something that is truly decentralized, something that is censorship resistant, something, again, it's the decentralization of Bitcoin. It is vulnerable to government pressure and government regulation. And governments are not, they don't really care about making payments more efficient. They don't really care about entrepreneurs coming in there and making payments better and faster and quicker and you being able to send money from A to Z. They don't really care about that. The number one priority for governments, and Europe, the European Union is a great representation of this when they talk about the digital euro, the central bank digital currency. The number one priority of governments right now is to keep control of money, to keep a monopoly on money. That's what they fundamentally care about. They don't care about money being better. They don't care about payments being more efficient. They care about how do we keep control over money. So if that is their top priority and you have a centralized company that, again, it has ruffled a lot of feathers worldwide, you know, Elon taking the free speech stance that he has with the platform, what do you think regulators are going to do? Right? What do you think regulators are going to do? They're going to step in and they're going to put in the controls and the stops and the regulations. And they're going to say, oh, you know, this is a threat, you know, to the financial system. All the excuses that they used with Libra, they're just going to rinse and repeat that, right? You can only truly build on top of Bitcoin because of its decentralized nature. Remember the Canadian truckers protest, right? What was the only thing the Canadian government could not freeze during the Canadian truckers protest? It was Bitcoin. They even sent a letter to Nunchuk, and they were asking Nunchuk to basically give up the keys of their customers. And Nunchuk sent the Canadian government this badass letter basically saying, look, we couldn't do it even if we wanted to, but when you guys go bankrupt because you print too much money, we'll be here to serve you as well, which was such a badass letter, right? So anyways, I think Elon's going to learn the hard way, you know, like he did with Doge, right? The only way that you can truly fix the money and fix the world is with Bitcoin. And the reason I'm saying it's only with Bitcoin is because Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency on the face of the planet that is actually decentralized. Anyways, guys, we're going to be right back in just a bit. We're going to hit the numbers segment. We're going to talk about Pam Bondi. She said some interesting things yesterday. We're going to talk about it. And then we have a thread from Jack Mallers as well, talking about the stock market not making all-time highs. So we're going to be right back in just a bit. Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on Stampseed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
All right, everybody. Guys, you want to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. You want to store your seeds the proper way. And of course, we recommend the Stamp Seed Kit. Again, stamp your seed into a plate of titanium. The Stamp Seed Kit has everything you need for you to do this in the privacy of your own home. Again, this is the 12-word seed plate. They have the 24-word seed plate. And again, this will stand the test of time. They dunk this in salt water for a year. And none of the data was corrupted. This is how you store your seed words properly. Head over to stampseed.com today and use, again, promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store, stampseed.com. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $65,500. Sats per dollar, 1,527. Block height, 936,257. Realized monetary inflation, 0.83%. Market cap, 1.31 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 4.37%. Percentage issued, 95.18%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting the party started. Again, Bitcoin versus gold market cap. I mean, we were celebrating. We were celebrating too early, bro. It reached 10% at one point, and we were like, look, like if Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold, that's $1 million per coin. Right now, if Bitcoin reaches a market cap of gold, that's $1.7 million per coin. I would consider Bitcoin a total failure if it at least doesn't reach the market cap of gold. I don't think it's a question of if it will reach the market cap of gold. I think it's a question of when and how long it's going to take. Anywho, let's talk about Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi was saying some very interesting things. They were asking her questions about Epstein, right, which has been making the news lately. And her answer was striking. It was fascinating to me because again, like, and I tweeted this out earlier this morning. I said the nation state is dying. Everyone's still playing pretend. Like, if there's no accountability, and again, this is not a left or right thing, and I'm a big fan of the Trump administration. I think the things that they've done for Bitcoin have been fantastic. But like, it's clear that there's a two-tier system. Right. And this is what Bitcoin's all about, by the way. There's a two-tier system. There's a two-tier system of justice. There's a two-tier system based on what your political beliefs are. Right. If you believe certain things, the justice system treats you differently. If you believe certain other things, the justice system treats you differently. If you have a certain amount of money, the justice system treats you differently. If you have, it's a two-tier system, and that's not what we've been sold on, right? This is not what it's all about. Like that's not part of the social contract that we all agreed to. And again, that reality, that false reality, is basically disappearing in front of our eyes, right? Like, and I think it really comes down to broken money. Like it really comes down to that. I think broken money causes moral decay in society. And I think I think like, look, like if you go back, 50, 60, 70 years ago, and you tune into like any type of like media entity or something like that, like they would actually tell you the news, right? Like like the level of I don't even know how to describe it, Opti. Like the level of like in your face corruption has just gone off the charts. I mean, I remember in the beginning of the year, like do you remember the Dan Bongino and Cash Patel interview? They did an interview on Legacy Media, and basically they asked like Cash Patel, like and Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino was like super famous, like #1 streamer on Rumble. Like he was pounding his chest for the longest time. He's like, I'm gonna drain the swamp and all this stuff. And it's like in that interview, it looks like he was being held hostage. It was crazy. And they asked him, they're like, okay, like are you guys gonna release the Epstein files? And they were like, basically like, what Epstein files? These Epstein files don't exist. And then the Epstein files got released last week, and the shit we saw, like, holy cow, holy crap. I mean, even some Bitcoiners were implicated, but essentially, right? Like even Bitcoiners,
I would say named
were named, right? So even some Bitcoiners were talked about, right? Like it was look, I gotta apologize to Rustin. All the shit that was said by,
wait, Rustin was right. Rustin was right about everything.
I gotta apologize to Rustin. I gotta apologize to Alex Jones. Like all the conspiracy theorists and like all the shit that people were saying for the longest time, that you'd be like, yo, that guy's a wacko. Like that there's no way that can be true. Like, I mean, when these files were released, holy shit, excuse my language. So we've gotten to this point, and there's no accountability. Like there's a couple people that are upset on Twitter. There's a couple people that are upset on X because you actually consume your information through the internet. But is actually anything going to be done? Like, is there going to be any accountability? Is there going to be anybody held accountable? Are there going to be any type of investigations? Like the last thing that happened that uncovered corruption in government was the daycares, right? That was happening in Minnesota. And it took basically a 22 or 23-year-old Zoomer with a YouTube channel to make a viral video for the federal government to do anything at all, right? Like, it was crazy. Now, take a look at this clip of the Attorney General of the United States. Again, the most powerful person in the Department of Justice, like the chief law enforcement officer, when she got asked about the Epstein files.
The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee.
Like, that's real life. Like, that shit's crazy. So it's like again, like that shit isn't going to fix itself. Like, it's just not going to work out. It's just not going to fix itself. Most people don't care. Most people are watching the sports ball and arguing about what the halftime show was going to be. Like, that was like the center of attention of the average person, right? Like, and unless like there's a critical mass of people that actually care, nothing's really going to change, right? Like you had it right there. You had a great example. Like the shit that was revealed in the files, a lot of these things I can't even say on the live stream, was insanity. It was crazy. It was like ludicrous. And her response is basically like, hey, we should be focusing on the stock market because at least the stock market is going up. Well, I got news for you guys. even that's bullshit. Take a look at this comment from Jack Mahlers. The stock market is smashing records in dollars because the U.S. keeps printing money and stealing from the American people via inflation. Measured in assets the U.S. can't print, like Bitcoin and gold, the stock market is getting crushed. Should we talk about that? And here is the proof. There's the NASDAQ, as if you measure it in Bitcoin. And here is the NASDAQ if you measure it in gold. The reality is that the NASDAQ has been crashing against gold since 2022. The NASDAQ has been crashing against Bitcoin since 2019. So like like if you guys want to know why governments are opposed to Bitcoin, why governments want a central bank digital currency, why governments want control over money, is that it's so that they can keep this illusion up. That's what it's all about. It's so that they can distract you from the crazy shit that happened, right? So that they can keep you, look, like, guys, what are you talking about? The economy's booming. Like, everyone's getting wealthier. And it's like the vast majority of people don't own assets. So they're not getting wealthier when this happens. They're getting poorer because their currency, their savings is being debased. This is total clown world. So how do you fix this? I don't think you can fix this on an overarching level unless there's this massive political movement that starts. But I think we're decades away from that, to be honest with you, to be totally frank with you. But you know what you can do? You could focus on yourself, and you can focus on your family, and you could focus on your friends, and you could focus on your, on your parents and your grandparents and your children. And again, you could focus on them, right? You can fix your life. And the way that you do that is by opting out of clown world in its entirety. Just opt out of it, because like that is batshit crazy what I just played for you guys. And like I said, I like the Trump administration. I like Pam Bondi. I like that. It's great. But the fact that there's a two-tier justice system, that there's rules, but the rules don't apply equally to everybody based on what your financial status is, and again, based on what your political beliefs are, it's un-American. It's unjust. So what happens when you find yourself in this type of situation? You're like, look, like, I'm just going to opt out. Like, I'm just going to focus on my family, getting wealthier, focus on my health, focus on my well-being, focus on this. Like, I'm going to opt out of clown world, basically, because what you're seeing with this lack of accountability, the excuses suffering from inflation themselves, like what you're seeing with that stuff is what happens when governments have a total monopoly over the control of money. They can lie as much as they want. They can go to war as much as they want. They can fund whatever program. They can promise you anything in the world because it doesn't cost them anything. They can just print everything. They could just print the difference. This is what it comes down to. But again, you're not going to fix this politically. It's not going to happen. Like, I had hopes. Opti called it. We could do the wide shot, please. Opti called this, and I'm going to give him credit. Perhaps I called the cycle right, but Opti called this. Opti was, because I gave him a lot of shit for it. I was like, dude, like, you got to vote. We got to get Ross free, which we did get. We did get Ross free. Like, that was fantastic. That was.
One sec. Sorry, guys. Our audio thing just compressed.
So we gotta get Ross free. We gotta do all of those things. Like, that was the whole thing, right? Like, that was the mission, right? That was the mission. We were like, look, we gotta get Ross free. We have like this amazing team, right? We got Tulsi Gabbard going in there. We got RFK going in there. We got Dan Bongino. We got Elon at Doge. Like, things are going to change. Like, we had such high expectations.
Wait, what's this we word?
I mean, that was the whole thing. And like, guess what happened? nothing changed. Like nothing changed. Like, yes, we had some regulatory, like even with the Clarity Act, let's talk about that, right? Like the Clarity Act, which is the actual act that is going to, potentially protect your right to self-custody on the federal level. Like they passed the Genius Act very quickly. You want to know why they passed the Genius Act very quickly, even in a bipartisan fashion? Because again, it would perpetuate the use of the US dollar on a global level. It was a stablecoin bill. But when it comes to a bill, like as it relates to the Clarity Act, that has nothing to do with the US dollar, it has to do with alternatives like Bitcoin, they're taking their sweet time, aren't they? They're taking their time. They're walking it through. They're making sure they have everything checked off. They're negotiating. They're reaching compromises. And the time keeps getting delayed. Right? Like we were promised this bill was going to be done in November of last year. And then they're like, oh, we're going to address it in the beginning of the year. And if you take a look at the poly market odds, which I did last night, it only has a 56% chance of passing. I promise you it's going to go down below 50%. I've been calling this for like 4 months now. So again, weave it all back in. Unless we separate money from state, you're going to continue to see this clown world shit. Because there's absolutely no incentive for accountability. There is no accountability. They're not accountable. They have a money printer, right? And I don't think I don't think there's a political solution to this. I think there's the solution to this is you as an individual reclaiming back your financial sovereignty and moving to a jurisdiction that benefits you. Right? Whether that's moving to El Salvador, whether that's moving to Dubai or whatever, you got to do what's best for you, right? And that's the core thesis of the book from the sovereign. That's the core thesis of the sovereign individual. Like that book, like that's the core thesis of it, right? So opt out of clown world that is fueled by money printing, and you do that by buying Bitcoin, earning Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin, and putting that Bitcoin into self-custody. Full stop. Anyways, I do want to welcome our guest.
Wait. Let me get a rip on this, bro.
Right,
Sheesh, you've been ranting for 15 minutes. I can't get a rip on this.
I crushed it, dude.
All right. Look, no, you did. I like that, but I've heard that one before. So look, I think the craziest part about this is like this is literally her job to talk about what is potentially one of the biggest scandals since I don't know, Watergate or something like that, and she's literally like, hey, let's not talk about this, let's talk about the stock market. It's like, you're not a financial person. Like, this is literally your job to prosecute this stuff, and you're trying to do this like pseudo Trump thing, like the Dow Jones is at $50,000, S&P 500's all-time high. It's like, bro, this is your job to talk about this. Now, without rehashing everything Nico said, because I fundamentally agree with what Nico is saying, the biggest takeaway for this, for me, is that I think the Trump administration now is completely cooked. After this, like, if this is the hill that they're going to die on, I think they've just lost all of their political power here. But like, hold on. Nothing of this Bitcoin stuff that they've been trying to do is going to get passed from here on out, because the majority of young people are completely tuned out. And they literally told everyone, hey, you're poor, doesn't matter. If you own assets, if you own the stock market, like, you're good. If you have a 401k, if you're 40 years and above, like, you're doing the best as ever. And then all of us young people are like, wait, didn't they say we were going to get the most transparent?
That's the shtick.
No shit.
That's the shtick, bro.
But my point is, dude, if you think any Bitcoin stuff is going to get passed, it's cooked, it's over. Like, fell for it again award.
The whole shtick is this. Right? Like, the repubs, they get elected, right? As a response to what the Democrats are doing. The Democrats then get elected as a response to what the Republicans are doing. But throughout the entire time, they're just milking it in. They're collecting donations, the lobbying, you got to donate, give to this, give to that party. Oh, you got to vote us in to save America. Like, you hear those things. It's like, this is a threat to democracy. This guy's the no kings and whatever. And again, like, the pendulum swings, and these are people that are supposed to represent you. But the thing is, nothing fundamentally changes, right? And that's the core issue. And again, I think nothing will change until we separate money from state. I don't know. I don't know how that's even politically viable in the next 10, 20, 30 years. It's just not going to happen. Like that meme in my head keeps replaying, right? Like, hard times create, good times create weak men create hard times create strong men. Like that whole meme is like playing out in real time. And, again, you can either get on the Bitcoin lifeboat or just, stay on the fiat Titanic. It's totally up to you. Anyways, we have our guest here, Jordan Bush. We're going to bring him up on stage right after the break. We will be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody, we are back, and we got a special guest today. We got Jordan Bush in the house. Thanks for joining us, and he's with Thank God for Bitcoin. They throw some amazing events. I had the honor to be able to speak at one. It was great here in Miami. Jordan, welcome to the show, dude.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you guys and all that you do. I'm sitting here writing down promo codes for Sat123. I never even heard of that company before, so I'm like looking forward to going shopping when we get off the call.
Yeah, man. Sat123 is great. They literally, it's like if you're thinking about building a citadel, you got to go to sat123.com. Like they literally have everything you need to build that Bitcoin citadel of your dreams. Anyways, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I think I saw you at Plan B in El Salvador, dude.
Correct.
So it was great to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. But how are you? I know that you wrote a book, which is really cool. I want to talk about that today. And also I want to get your commentary. I know you came in halfway through our previous segment on this clown world stuff that we're going through, man. Like that's crazy, dude. Like, the Epstein files dropped. All this stuff got uncovered, and then you literally have the chief law enforcement officer in Congress basically saying, like, why are we talking about that? Look at the Dow. Look at the stock market. It's reaching all-time highs. Like, pay attention to that. Don't pay attention to all this crazy satanic, I can't even say the rest stuff. Don't pay attention to that. Pay attention to the stock market. It's reaching all-time highs. But then as I showed in the graph, the stock market isn't even reaching all-time highs if you compare it to Bitcoin and gold, right? So it's all a game, right? And then if you kind of connect this with the Super Bowl, it's like sports ball. It's like, what was that famous quote from Rome? It's like, what do you do to distract the people? You give them bread and circuses. And I feel like we're at the circuses part, Anyways, Jordan, welcome to the show. Want to get your comments on that, and then let's talk about your book.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. Thank you again for having us. Again, grateful for you guys and what you do. Yeah, I mean, I was looking, via the Thank God for Bitcoin Twitter account, I like retweeted that same video of Bondi that everyone was, incredulous over, and basically saying, look how much money you're making. Why are you still talking about our unwillingness to punish satanic pedophiles? Isn't a great way to convince folks that you're not the kind of people who would cover up satanic pedophilia for money. It's just one of these things. Like this doesn't make sense. Given that this is what people are. Yeah, like this is not good PR. Even at the most, even if you're thinking about this from the most, just ridiculous standpoint. When even if you didn't care about truth, even if you didn't care about these people who are being harmed, the fact that all you're talking about, you're trying to ignore this incredible trove of evidence that's coming out, and you're sitting here talking about the stock market and all these things. It's just so ridiculous.
It's crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous. And not only that, and shout out to Opti for calling this. It's like, look, like I don't think we could have voted in a better, administration to come in and to fix this. Like he ran on the platform of draining the swamp. Like that was his whole core messaging.
And it literally was the dog who chased the car. Like we actually caught the car, and they're like, "Oh shoot, what do we do now? We didn't actually intend on doing anything about it." And so it's just again, it's like you can still acknowledge this is way better than the alternative, but it still is just horrifying to so many people who, again, to your point, had their hopes up that you're going to run on this platform, you're going to actually win, you actually unite people from both the left and the right who are like, yeah, if there's one thing we can all agree on, we should be putting pedophiles to death. And just finding out this, it's just insane. And then to see the total inaction and just comic level of, oh, why do you still care about that when you see how much money you're making? It's just ridiculous. Like anyone who's not completely jaded and ridiculous is seeing, this is totally wrong. Who even says these kind of things?
Yeah, 100%. And the question is what comes next, right? Because again, I'm coming at it from the repubs are going to get destroyed during the midterms.
Yeah.
The opposing party isn't any better, right? No. But it's the swing, right? It's just that they make money regardless of who's in power. It's like a theater, and I think. Yeah. If there is at least like a silver lining of what has come out of at least getting the Trump administration, and again, I'm a fan of Trump. Like I think he's done a great job. Like what he did for Venezuela with Maduro, was fantastic. So I'm not it's not like I'm not like, oh my God, like this is horrible. But simultaneously, you see those types of press conferences, and you're just like, dude, like, are you kidding me? Like your entire base, I would say like 80 to 90% of his base are all foaming at the mouth, and they're all like, dude, do something. This is literally why we got you elected. We don't care about the DAO, right? He got elected by middle-class voters. Like, we don't care about the DAO. You came in there and you told us you were going to take care of this stuff. And then I don't know what happens, but the moment someone gets into power in Washington, D.C., it's like as if like something happens to them. It could be a threat. You don't know, right? It could be a threat, but basically their behavior starts to change, and they start acting for the betterment of the elites rather than the betterment of the American people, the majority, right? Which again, that's not a democracy, right? We're getting sold on the importance of democracy, but this doesn't look very democratic in my opinion.
Yeah,
right?
And then you've got Trump isn't exactly like a middle class guy, right? His dad was a billionaire, he's a billionaire. And then we also know that Trump is in these files, like his name's in the files a bunch of times. So it's like, now again, there's been people, some of the victims have come out and said, this Trump was nothing but a gentleman. He didn't do then there's like people who filed, complaints or whatever with the police that are saying he's involved. So like it doesn't do him any favors if he was totally innocent. It doesn't do him any favors to not be willing to to go hard at these guys. It just makes him look guilty, even at the most, even if you're the most sympathetic Trump person ever. And so it's like trying to figure out how to explain, like his unwillingness and his administration's unwillingness to go after this. It just gets really dark really quick, because you're like, okay, I mean, it really does seem like there's other nation state actors that we don't even need to identify, but like it does seem like it does seem like that there's other nation state actors who have a tremendous amount of sway over what is being said and done. And so it's like it's committing political suicide, and yet he knows he knows that this is political suicide, but he's going to keep doing it anyhow. And so you're just like, man, what do they have? Like, what is? And so, yeah, I just think, I don't know where this goes from here. I still think that there's a case to be made that, they're like between the two quote unquote viable options, like he's still far and away. And at least even if you go beyond him, like the people in his administration are much to be desired. Like there's plenty of awesome people within his administration who aren't necessarily like the big names at the top.
100%. But I don't think I think the big reveal here is like, I don't think that they can change the system. Yeah. I think that's really what was exposed with this election. Yeah.
I don't think they want to change the system. I don't think it's not that they can. They don't want to.
I don't think they can, dude. I really don't think they can. Like, I don't think they can. Like,
they don't want to.
I think no, dude. I think that there's a bureaucratic elite. There's a bureaucracy that is very well entrenched, that remains in power regardless of who's elected, and they're the ones who actually run the country. That's literally what's happening. And I think elections are like a mechanism so that like it's a pressure release valve, essentially, right? Like things get so bad that it's like, oh, we're going to have election, we're going to change things. People are like, oh my God, there's going to be a change. And then guess what happens? Nothing happens, right? Anywho, we're going to talk about Jordan's book right after the break. We're going to be right back in just a sec. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. All right, everybody, we are back. Like I said, I met up with Jordan in El Salvador. We saw each other at the Plan B forum. Shout out to the Tether guys, by the way. They throw an amazing conference. The Plan B conference in El Salvador. Jordan and I ran into each other. And Jordan, you were telling me that you wrote this book. Talk to us a little bit about that. Do you have a physical copy? I know you.
I've got a couple copies. So
you gave a copy, right?
I don't know. Did I? Okay, maybe I did. So yeah, we've got it's called The Orange Umbrella. We've got a paperback copy right here, and then we've also got a hardcover. We just tried to do, again, this book, a buddy and I named JD wrote it over the course of the whole process, start to finish, was about 2.5 years. It took way too long. And so because it took so long, we just were like, all right, we're just going to do top of the line quality on every way. So these are like, all the hardcovers are sewn bindings. The goal is that they're going to last, to your grandkids. You can hand it down to them. And again, this is the kind of the gimmick of the book is basically it's a Bitcoin book that never mentions Bitcoin. So all of us have had people in our lives who they hear about Bitcoin all the time. We're trying to orange pill them and they just get sick of it. And so we just decided like, all right, what if we created a Bitcoin book that would do the work of orange pilling without needing to use the controversial word? And so it's a fun story about an island where it never rains, but everybody carries an umbrella. And so they carry umbrellas because a long time ago there was like a horrible storm. And so after the storm, people realized, oh no, we should have umbrellas to try to protect ourselves. And so they sat there and they're 4 or 5 different people trying to argue about what kind of umbrella they should, what would be the best design for an umbrella. And so after trying to work on it together, they ended up going their separate ways, and they each kind of worked on their own. So the story, there's a guy named Mr. Green, who he has a green umbrella. It's the lightest umbrella. It's the largest. It's been meticulously designed to where, even if it rains, it will dissipate at a predictable rate over time, but it'll still be able to endure the storm. There's another guy named Mr. Gould. Mr. Gould has a golden umbrella. It's beautiful. It's got the longest track record of success, all this kind of stuff. And then there's a house-shaped umbrella. This lady, she created a house that looks like an umbrella. My favorite character is a guy who thinks that, who basically, he endured the first storm, but he hit his head. Something hit his head during the storm, and so he forgot that it happened, and so he thinks that rain is a giant conspiracy theory, and that people are all worried about nothing. So he thinks that umbrellas are a scam, rain's a scam. So he's just doesn't have any umbrella, and so then basically we see what happens. We're introduced to all these people. We're also introduced to these two kids whose parents died during the storm, and so the whole rest of the story is what happens when the rain actually comes. And then what happens when they meet this mysterious figure, the Orange Umbrella Man, and he's talking about his orange umbrella that's better than all the other ones. And so the rest of the story is what happens. We see whose umbrella can stand up to the test of the worst storm that anybody's ever seen. So yeah, that was kind of the thing. The whole thing rhymes. The whole thing. We didn't use any AI either in the text or in the illustrations. It's all hand illustrated by a girl who, when we met her, was 3 months pregnant. So a new mom, first time mom, ended up doing all of the line art, all the coloring, everything. So low time preference book, low time preference, people who were involved in it, and we couldn't just be more excited about the end product. Like, she just absolutely killed it. And we're just super excited to get it out to people finally.
I didn't know robots could get pregnant, but that is news to me. That's fantastic. No, but that's really cool. So, because I don't think human written books are going to be even a thing.
Yeah.
10 years from now, I think
human written books is crazy.
So like, I don't even think it's going to be a thing. So the fact that, it's all, carefully, meticulously, written and drawn. That's super, super cool. Where can people find this book?
Yeah, so you can get it right now. We Amazon won't let us on there for some reason. So you
I
can
wonder
just right
why.
now, the only place in the world to get it is at tgfb.com/TOU, as in the orange umbrella. You can get it there. You can order, we can order multiple copies. The other thing that we did that, again, I haven't seen other books do, but we just had the idea was like, hey, if we're doing, if we're already doing the work to put together to draw actually what's going to be in the book, why don't we just make a coloring book? Why don't we just take all the colors out of it and then just let people who buy the book color it themselves? And so we just did that as well. And so that's something else that you can get on the website, is the coloring book version of the book. It's got all the same text as the normal book. But then you can, you and your kids, or you, if you're an adult who's into coloring books, you can do that yourself. So, so just really, again, as far as I know, kind of unique in the publishing world, and then unique especially in the Bitcoin space. So yeah, that was kind of our goal, was just kind of create something that can last the test of time, hopefully. And, again, it's got the goal was kind of like Dr. Seuss meets Pixar, where nominally it's for kids, but there's a whole bunch of Easter eggs where if you're an adult, you'll pick up on it in ways that kids won't. So
that's awesome. Well, guys,
go
to tgfb.com. You can go to the store. You can find the orange umbrella. Again, support fellow Bitcoiners. The way that we change the world, I was saying this earlier, is you got to change the culture, right? It comes down to that, right? And the way that you change the culture is through media, through books that were written by humans, art, all of that stuff. So support fellow Bitcoiners. There's a great gift to give to somebody, your loved one. Maybe not your wife. Maybe your wife would be like, the price is down. What are you doing? But perhaps a friend. Or again, this is maybe for your kids, right?
Yeah. The other thing we had was just like what your family members, right? So like, again, all of us have brothers and sisters or nieces and nephews who, their parents, our siblings aren't into Bitcoin, and so are tired of hearing about it. And so this is like a sly roundabout way to orange pill without ever them seeing the word. So we actually just got confirmed yesterday that we're going to be signing books at the Bitcoin Magazine conference in Vegas. So if you want to get a signed copy of the book, you can join us there, and they'll be available in the bookstore there as well. So
fantastic. Fantastic. All right, everybody. Speaking of perfect segue, thank you, Jordan. Speaking of the Bitcoin conference, the Simply Bitcoin team will be there. We hope to see all you guys there. And again, you can use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off the conference. The conference is April 27th through the 29th at the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Bitcoin 2026. I call it Bitcoin Super Bowl weekend, right? Instead of paying attention to the sports ball, pay attention to the Bitcoin ball. You got to go to Bitcoin 2026 if you're trying to get a job in the industry. You want to hear from the latest and greatest in the Bitcoin space. Go to Bitcoin 2026 in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's April 27th through the 29th at the Venetian Hotel. Get your tickets now, and if you use promo code SIMPLY, you get 10% off your tickets. Current speakers include Michael Saylor, Paul Atkins, Mike Selig, David Bailey, Arthur Hayes, Mike Belshi, Peter McCormack, Brent Johnson, and many, many more. You guys don't want to miss the biggest Bitcoin celebration of the year, Bitcoin 2026 in Las Vegas, Nevada. We hope to see you guys there. Again, use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your tickets. See you guys in Vegas. Anyways, Jordan, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Guys, go support Jordan's work. Go check out the new book, Orange Umbrella. And until then, guys, we'll see you guys on the next one. Make sure to smash the like button. Consider subscribing, and we'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.
Love hearing Sophie's voice. It's great to